Hi. So today I've got Mary with me. Mary is a menopause coach. Menopause is a topic that all of us have struggled with or struggling with or have to look forward to, comes to all of us. And Mary's going to first introduce herself and then tell us more. So take it away, Mary.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Shivvy, and thanks for having me. It's such a thrill to be here and impart the knowledge that I've gained over the last 20 years or so on this subject. So it's a subject very close to my heart. So I'll tell you a bit more about that actually in a minute. But
Hmm?
yes, I'm actually a menopause champion, and
Okay.
it's slightly distinct from being a coach. So I advocate for women in all kinds of scenarios, be it one to one, in groups, or in the workplace.
Hmm.
So I'm a menopause educator, and it it's also linked with my passion around nutrition as well, because this, as you'll hear, it's fundamental for getting through this stage. So those are my two, that wellness as well. I sort of link in with all of it. I've learned an awful lot about what keeps the body going and
Yeah.
keeps it well and functioning well over the last 20 years or so. And yeah, wellness is something that's also intrinsically linked to those two subjects. So menopause, nutrition, and wellness
I
are
think
my areas.
we're all waking up to, especially the pandemic has been like a big wake up call where suddenly everybody immune system, the importance of it and wellness and it's I don't know if it's my echo chamber, but it just seems to be more and more people are becoming aware and becoming wanting to be well, not
Yeah.
accepting, and preventative health is also becoming, which is the sphere you and I both function in.
Absolutely. I think, the functional medicine doctor's principle is definitely coming to the forefront. I think we've all had enough of the generic, you know, medicine curing or tackling symptoms. We want to actually get to the root cause of what is the issue
Yes. Yeah.
rather than just masking symptoms.
We're
And
all
I,
fed
I
up
think
sticking a band-aid over it.
that's right. And I think we're all waking up to that very much so. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also personal
I agree.
responsibility. I think that's also what's changing in society is that we all used to see doctors and GPs as gods, and whatever they said went,
Yeah,
but now I think we're all waking up to the fact that a lot of that is funded by big pharma. And
absolutely. And,
we've had enough of that.
and also Uncle Google is very handy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're all becoming experts in different areas
I
thanks to
think
the
I think
internet.
it's accessibility to information which has brought about a big transformation because, you know, years ago you had to go to the library and you had to know how to look for the book, research all that, read the book, etc. Whereas now, you can take information, it's on your fingertips and it's bite size.
Absolutely. And I hope that's what we're going to achieve today, a little bit of,
Yeah.
because so many people these days are too busy to be reading books. So podcasts and things like that are
Yeah.
really the information source that's coming up,
Yeah.
in the media now,
Yeah.
in social
So
media. I think it's really
let's
good.
talk about the three different stages. Three you said to me, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
Very,
menopause, that's right. So there's three stages. So pre-menopause is obviously from birth till around 40. Let's just say we're going to give just generic figures because obviously there is a lot of
yeah, yeah.
individual for variety.
Hmm.
Perimenopause can start anywhere from sort of 40s up to 50, and then postmenopause is really that one day on the calendar where you've had 12 months clear of bleeding, consecutive months,
Hmm.
and you can then say you're postmenopause. And you're postmenopause then for the rest of your life. So this is why it's quite a serious and phase of life that really should be taken very seriously,
Hmm.
because it yes, perimenopause is the time where the hormones are very erratic, and that's where most of the symptomology happens, and we'll come on to symptoms in a minute. But post-menopause, even though some symptoms can reduce and stabilize and you start to be able to live with it, for a lot of women, actually, they can't. There's an awful lot that still continues, such as hot flushes, sleep disturbances, and so on. But the long-term health difficulties that happen with menopause that you can't see or you might not consider or think about are the three big things that are killing women today. So
Yeah.
they're dementia, so brain health. They are heart health. So heart disease and cardiovascular disease is a major killer for women. And then the osteoporosis. So
Yeah.
falling and breaking a bone, generally a hip or a wrist or something like that in later life, can be absolutely catastrophic.
I read some weird high statistics that if a woman fell and broke her hip, that she would be dead in 6 months or something. It was some weird,
It's
crazy
12
statistic.
months. It's
12 months.
scary. Within 12
Yeah.
months. So doctors say they have this bit of phrase for the elderly, especially the women, fall and break a hip, die of pneumonia 12 months later.
Oh my God.
And that's basically what happened to my mum. That's almost textbook what happened to my mum. Sadly, I lost my mother last February, so it's coming up to a year.
Hmm.
And the year prior to that, in April, she fell, broke her hip, had a fantastic surgery and everything, but never recovered to the point of being able to walk again. So
Yeah.
she was
Something
then from
similar
that
happened
point,
to my mom as well.
she was immobile, and then she died of pneumonia just 11 months later.
Do you think it's the immobility or, yeah, it's obviously the
Absolutely,
fact. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Our bodies are designed to move,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
without moving, our immune systems fail.
Hmm.
And then any infection, like a chest infection, will see you off,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and that's generally what happens. So yeah, it's within 12 months. That's why taking care of our bones, taking care of our gut health, taking care of our brains are vitally important, and that's why menopause is hopefully now in the mainstream and hopefully more coming to the forefront of
I think it's
women's
talked
health.
about a lot more.
Absolutely. So those three stages are generic, as I said, but it can happen much earlier. So menopause can happen much earlier, as it did for me. So that's why it's a thing that's so close to my heart. So I'm now 20 years post menopause,
Wow. So
and
how old are you?
I've only just turned 49. So I was
Wow.
49 in November last year. So yeah, so this is a condition, or as doctors like to call it, a condition called POI. It's premature ovarian insufficiency. Used to be called failure, but now it's insufficiency, and that affects roughly 5% of the population.
Hmm.
And so, as you can tell, if you've done the maths, it happened to me at 29.
Wow.
And if I knew then what I know now, that probably wouldn't have happened because I was a sufferer of endometriosis, which is a inflammatory condition.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking a lot about
Yeah.
inflammation today.
Inflammation. Yeah.
And if I'd known then that that's what it was an inflammatory condition, I would have paid much more attention to what I was eating, how my lifestyle was, and so on to reduce symptoms of endometriosis. Unfortunately, I didn't. I
So
just went to the doctor.
inflammation doesn't get talked about enough.
It
I think other
doesn't.
than us beating the drum about it constantly, I don't know anybody else, any other company, doctors. Inflammation is just,
Well, and it's so important that that you mentioned it there, Shivvy, because it's underneath every single disease.
yeah,
The fundamental, I mean, it be from cancer or arthritis or anything that's long term that really plagues our society at the moment. Underneath all of it
yeah,
is inflammation.
correct.
So me having endometriosis at a young age, from say 13 when I went through puberty, I just took the contraceptive pill to
Okay.
mask symptoms. And I feel like I was neglected. My health was neglected from the medical teams that were supposed to be my caregivers. And I was on the contraceptive pill for about 20 years. Well, that saw the end to my ovaries. And
Yeah.
there you go. That it just stopped, obviously, ovarian function, and they just packed up. And now I am where I am. So I've spent a life, if you like, on artificial hormones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, as I say, so POI or early menopause can affect lots of people, 5% roughly of the population, which when you think that we're millions of people, 5%
Exactly. Quite a few.
quite a
Yeah.
large number. But also ethnicity can actually create some differences as well. So ethnicity generally means that for particularly Southeast Asian women, women of African descent, they can be affected by early menopause by about 5 to 10 years. So they're not quite sure what that is yet, why that is. It's probably genetic.
Hmm.
It, but it does just mean that women of certain ethnicities do have to be aware that their childbearing ages are a little bit narrower. That window of opportunity to become a
Hmm.
mother actually is much um, shorter than for other ethnicities. And that's a point really that I also wanted to make about menopause. And it's a stage, it's a transition, it's an endocrine stage. And we have two others as women. Obviously, there's puberty and then there's pregnancy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think about that because a lot of the symptoms that we get in perimenopause, such as, say, hot sweats and sleep disturbances, you can get those through pregnancy and
Correct.
even puberty. You can start having sleep disturbances, hot flushes, and mood changes. But when a lady's pregnant, isn't society bending over backwards to support that woman? Because you can
Correct.
see that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
When a woman is menopausal or perimenopausal or postmenopausal, whichever we're going to term it, society's not so caring, not
Yeah.
so forgiving, not so generous. And that's an awful big part of what women go through is the emotional and psychological changes of menopause as well. So because we are saying goodbye to our potential to be a mother either for the first time or again, and that's a huge sadness because it's a massive part of what it is to be a woman.
Of your identity. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that also comes mood changes. So I think we're all quite familiar with the general symptoms, aren't we, of what menopause brings. The hot flushes, as I've said, mood changes. Um, there's all sorts of skin issues. There's all
I
sorts
think you
of
get a bit more weepy as well. A lot of my friends and all, I don't know, not so, I didn't notice it so much, but I know, you are much more emotional. Almost
absolutely.
like when you're going through puberty, your emotions get heightened.
Absolutely. So it's because of those hormones literally going up, down, up, down. And it's really good that actually that you mentioned puberty because you could think of menopause as actually reverse puberty or
Puberty.
puberty in reverse.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because yeah, there are slamming doors, there are
Yeah.
short fuses, and that is part and parcel of it, unfortunately, until we can get to grips with, you know, leveling out those hormones. And
Yeah.
there's lots of tools and solutions that we can, apply to our lives
Yeah.
to help us through this, such as, and also like if you've ever experienced a teenager, or if you can remember when you were a
I'm
teenager,
going through. I have a granddaughter who's 13. We're in the middle of it.
right? So blood sugar levels are really important to stabilize mood, and sleep, really important to stabilize
Yeah.
mood. If those two things go out the window, there's going to be an awful lot more shouting and slamming of doors. And
Yeah.
that works for people of all stages of life. So it works for the young girls going through puberty, and it also works for us going through this stage of life, the peri and the postmenopause stage of life. So, I mean, there's so many symptoms for menopause. It's not even worth talking about all of them. There's probably over 50, well over 50. And
Yeah.
the reason for that is because of these hormones that suddenly diminish. I mean, they literally fall off a cliff. In perimenopause, they're going up and down. But as each time they sort of they go down further and they fall down quite dramatically. And it is this peak and trough of hormones that is causing all of the disturbances and a feeling of us not actually knowing who we are anymore, feeling very confused and lost and like knowing there's something desperately wrong.
Is
But
that why tolerance levels go down when you're in your 40s and 50s?
well, it's interesting you should say that actually, because estrogen, which is one of the main hormones that we're talking about here, that is produced in the ovaries, and it's the
Yeah.
ovaries that are starting to not function well. It's actually a type of estrogen called ester, est, esterone. No, sorry, estradiol. So estrone is the one that comes in after estradiol. So estradiol is the all sing, all dancing hormone, but it is the one that makes us female, makes us have curves, soft edges, and makes us people pleasing as
Ah,
well.
that
So
is so interesting.
isn't it? So
Yeah.
as estradiol falls, so does our tolerance. Absolutely,
That
because
is,
we think
you know how many, I think everybody says that. I just don't have, I don't have the same patience. I don't, oh my God. So that's an actual thing.
it's
I
an
just
actual
thought you were
thing.
just
It's the biddable
growing
hormone.
up.
Yeah, no, it is actually the biddable hormone. It's the one that makes us be able to tolerate screaming newborn babies.
Ah,
So we can
wow.
tolerate
This
a
is an
lot.
aha moment.
Okay. So yeah, so unfortunately, what takes over from the all singing, all dancing estradiol is estrone, as I mentioned. Estrone is an inflammatory hormone, which is intrinsically linked with fat cells. So
So the weight gain.
it's produced in fat cells, and it also stimulates more fat cells
Oh God.
to create more estrone. Because our body, how clever are our bodies? Our bodies are trying to fix this issue of low estrogen, and it finds another way, and it finds that way through fat cells. So, how
We'll
clever?
find another way.
Exactly. Well, the other way is obviously hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can do that. That's
Yeah.
just a tool. And I think it's a really good tool if it fits you.
Yeah.
And that's something to be prepared for and talk with your GP about what's available to you. And also, if you don't get good answers there, to look at maybe
There's a lot of, we don't have to go for the cheap synthetic hormones anymore. There's a lot of natural hormones there, you know? I mean, like essential oils being one of them. And I hear of all these creams, these progesterone creams and um, you know, so you've talked about estrogen.
yeah.
What about progesterone?
Well, progesterone's really important. It's the one that puts the brake on the growth.
Okay.
So So the first part of the menstrual cycle, we're building estrogen, and towards the end of that cycle, so after ovulation, that's when progesterone comes in. It's part of the from the egg that's actually ovulated. It's the end part of that. So from what we call the corpus luteum, and that's when progesterone grows. So that's the second half of the cycle. And that's the thing that puts the brake on. And it's the thing that also is quite calming. It's the thing that gives us some focus as well, as
Okay.
does testosterone. But progesterone is very, very important, equally as important,
As
really,
estrogen.
as estrogen.
Because everybody talks about estrogen, and I never hear as much about progesterone. And I remember reading about it and, you know, how important it is.
It's essential. It's essential for brain health as well,
Mhm.
concentration, neuroplasticity, all those sorts of things. And more women, especially if they're on the pill, they're not actually getting the natural progesterone
Hmm.
anymore. So that does affect you. Um, it's a very significant hormone that, yeah, I think is overlooked
It
a
is
lot.
overlooked. I
Absolutely.
just going to take you back a little bit.
Mm,
So, when we were talking about estrogen, so
mm.
you hear always that, Japanese women and Chinese women get less menopause symptoms because they eat a lot of soya. Is that a myth or is that true?
Oh no, it's absolutely true.
So
Absolutely
having
true.
tofu, so how much would you recommend that if somebody feels that they are menopausal, like, so tofu, edamame beans, or, like more than tofu, like these days
Sure.
we prefer that fermented tofu, what's it called? Can't remember the name
Uh,
of it.
oh, oh, the name's just gone out of my
I
head as
know,
well.
gone out of my
Yeah,
head too.
it's all those beans like stuck together. Yeah,
Correct,
yeah,
correct.
yeah. It's really good for the
Yeah.
microbiome. But yeah, we will talk about it. Um, God, that isn't that
So
annoying when you
having, yeah,
forget.
isn't that crazy? Begins with K. Anyway, I will find it and put it
Yeah.
in the
So
chat.
yeah, but on that point though, about different ethnicities and suffering different levels of symptoms, not only do you have to look at their diet though, but you also have to look at the whole lifestyle. So in Japanese culture, they eat far less processed food, highly
Oh yeah,
processed food than
yeah,
we do.
yeah.
Their traditions and cultures is all around being calm. It's all around being
True.
kind, generous, those sorts of things. So you have to take that into account. You can't just say, oh, just because in Japanese culture they eat a lot more, fermented foods that are great for gut health.
Tempe.
Tempeh, thank you. I knew it was something pay, but I
Sorry.
couldn't remember the first. So there you go, menopause
Yeah, because
brain.
that's got, so would it have the same amount of estrogen as tofu?
The level, they're all varying different
They're varying.
levels.
Yeah. And what about edamame beans? Would they have
Now look, they're really good, really healthy, and yes, they're along the same line.
family? So edamame beans, tempeh, tofu can give you that natural kind
Yeah,
of
boost. It's a
support.
little boost. It's a boost of what we call natural phytoestrogens.
Yeah.
They're obviously great to include in your diet, not only from the phytoestrogen part of it, but also from a gut health part of it,
Yeah,
which we
that's
get
true.
into in just a sec.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I would say it's not just diet alone. It is the thought processes, it's culture, it's also I think women tend to support each other in more tightly knit groups as
More
well. In
community spirit.
community is vitally important. I don't know if you know much about the blue zones, but
Yeah.
Japan is definitely one of them, and
Yeah.
that's one of the
And
reasons why.
Italy.
And
Yeah.
Italy,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's all sorts of
That
different pockets
community
around the
spirit is
world.
still alive. Although in some parts, not so much in the cities. I'm in Norfolk and there's definitely a strong community spirit here. Definitely. And in Ireland, there's a real community spirit. So
Lovely.
it's still there. I think it's more city life that's become nuts. But
Yeah,
if
and
you're slightly
hectic.
out of the city, that community thing is still there.
That's right. And that's really what brings me onto the subject of stress,
Oh,
because
yeah.
stress has an
One of
great
my
big
favorite topics.
exactly influence. So this influences how you're going to go through your menopause journey, to be honest,
Yeah.
is how much stress you have in your life and how you manage it. And stress can be determined in different ways. I like to think of stress, the stresses that you know about, and the other things that you don't know about that causes the body stress are what I like to call stressors that you don't
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
see or hear.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good differentiation.
yeah, so stress, everyone knows stress, right?
Yeah.
You've got too much to do, too little time, um, lots of different pressures in all directions, lots of people wanting your attention or something from you. They're all stress. Having too much alcohol, is going to cause you
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah.
Not eating well is going to cause you stress. Drinking too much alcohol or not having enough hydration is
Yeah.
going to cause you stress.
Yeah.
So those are all the things that you kind of know. If you're not exercising, it's going to cause your body stress. All of the things you might not consider that might cause your body stress, that I like to call a stressor, are things maybe that are on or in your environment.
Hmm.
And they're things inside internally that you can't see. Like, for example, you can't see if your vitamin D levels are low. You
Correct.
can't see that. but that's going to
Yeah.
cause your body an enormous amount of stress,
Yeah.
and
And
that will
vitamin
influence.
D is more like a hormone. It's anti-inflammatory. And we can't get it in the winter because even if you're in the sun in the winter, the sun doesn't have the UVB rays. Is it the UVB rays that you need for
not
vitamin
it's
D?
not strong enough. It's just
Yeah.
not strong enough, you
Yeah.
know. And also you need to be 20% of your body at least needs to be exposed to the
Well,
sun for at least
you have
20
to
minutes.
be there enough that you get a slight amount of redness. Only then have you started to generate some vitamin D. I mean, in the sun, the vitamin D, that's the best way to get vitamin D. Unfortunately, it's not possible. And it's one of my favorite drums to beat on. Like constantly people putting on sun protection because not only are you blocking the sun rays, but you're putting a pile of chemicals on and baking yourself. That's one of my pet
Big,
peeves.
yes, absolutely. I mean, people don't think about what they put on their
No,
skin.
no,
And I always say, if you're going to be prepared to put something on your skin, you should be prepared to eat it.
eat it. I know Ruth always says that if you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin.
That's right, because your skin will absorb a certain amount of what you
Yeah,
put on it. So that includes
yeah,
obviously makeup, skin lotions, moisturizers, anything that really is coming into contact with your skin. So therefore, the clothes that you wear, the fibers that they are,
yeah.
the fabric conditioners that you use,
Oh
or
no, I
washing
can't give
powders
mine
that
up.
you use. So anything that can reduce what we call our toxic load in our environments and on our skin, so much the better. We can't do much about, pollutants in the air. If you can afford to get an air purifier for your
Do you know
home,
what Oliver told me today?
what's
That
that?
heavy metals is not necessarily just from your food. Like if you're breathing in air that's got pollutants in it, you take in heavy metals through just breathing. And I
Oh,
was like,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have vast amounts of it,
yeah,
from engines, factories,
yeah. And they're
chimneys.
everywhere.
They're absolutely
But
everywhere.
if you
You can't
park
avoid it.
behind a lorry,
Mm. Yeah, good luck. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, how many times are we in a traffic jam? And as much as, our windows are closed, but there's a certain amount of fresh air coming in, or
right.
technically fresh air.
Yeah, absolutely. And filters only filter out so much,
Yeah, and it's worse in cities, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is why kids, unfortunately, are getting more and more serious asthmas and breathing conditions.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So that's obviously a stressor that we do know about, but it's something you might not necessarily know how many heavy metals you've breathed in that day. So that's what I mean,
don't
the difference between stress and
you
stressor.
don't.
But yeah, but there are lots of things that we can do, and obviously on the food that we eat, from that point of view, we have to make sure that we are getting food that is less toxic
Hmm.
as well, that has had less toxic exposure to chemicals and pesticides. There's a really good group called, I think it's Pan UK, which is pesticides against nutrition, something like that, in the UK. And you can go to their website and see which are the most polluted foods that are being imported or that we actually provide to the food chain.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
things like that we can do. There's an app called Yucca that I use quite a lot, and that
Okay.
scans barcodes of things that I'm going to put on my skin or going to use. And that tells you the level of toxicity and whether it's sort of green, red, or amber. It's like green is good, obviously, and amber's
So
not
this
so good.
kind of toxicity, like so for example, giving a young boy soya milk, the way some people are avoiding dairy, giving them soya milk, giving them too much tofu, if you're vegetarian, you think, okay, I need to give protein, would mess up a young boy, right? So these chemicals, are they hormone inhibitors or do they make you produce more estrogen or what way do they affect us?
Both, both.
Well,
So they can interrupt our own hormone production,
yeah,
and they can actually replace our hormone production as well. So what we actually have circulating at any one time, we can
yeah.
have toxic um, chemicals that basically either inhibit our production or actually act like our hormones, which aren't, and they're much more toxic, much more inflammatory. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something to be thought about.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also something to think about what we're cooking with, if it's
Vegetable
aluminium,
oils. Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
Mary, could you
what,
give me 1 second? That's my
sure.
daughter coming in and out. Just give me, there we go. So where were we?
Yeah. So we were talking about toxic load,
Yeah.
things that affect us,
Yeah.
things that we cook with. That organization I've just remembered, it's Pesticides Action Network UK. So that's
And yeah.
Pan UK. It's really good to look up. Just because you don't always know what's being imported and what chemicals they've got on them, because there's different levels allowed in different countries where they're grown. So, and different types of chemicals as well, that are allowed to be sprayed onto crops, that then are imported, but they wouldn't be allowed to be grown here like that. So,
Oh, so there's no regulation for if you're importing something. Ah,
like blueberries, for example, everyone loves blueberries. I love blueberries, but you've got to be really careful where they come from. So in different countries, they're allowed to spray highly toxic carcinogenic chemicals on them and then be imported here, but we wouldn't be able to use those chemicals here to grow
if they
blueberries.
were British blueberries, this is why they always say eat seasonal, local.
That's right. That is why. But sometimes we just can't get them, and a lot of fruit and veg is imported. So we do have to watch that. Just watching our toxic load. So things we put on our skin, things in our environment like candles and the things that make your home smell nice, the
Yeah, I know
plug-in
I've
things,
stopped using all that. I mean,
all toxic.
I'm going to just tell you I had a client, right, who her son was, getting disrupted and he couldn't sleep and we just could not figure out, she was like I says to her stop using fabric conditioner blah 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 and I didn't check the air, didn't think. And then, I was like, okay, step by step. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? She he was a footballer and she was for breezing. You know that
Stuff.
I don't know
Hmm.
if we should be using the word, but I mean I was guilty many years ago of constantly for breezing and having plug-in
Yeah.
scenty stuff and candles scented, the stronger the better, And so she was for breezing his room because his kit stank.
Hmm.
And we stopped using that.
There you go. That's just a great example of a stressor,
And
right?
he
You
he was
don't
getting
know.
breathing difficulties.
Yeah. You don't know how it's affecting you.
Yeah.
That's exactly
I
right.
mean,
So
such a simple thing, her trying to mask his kit,
yeah,
the smell from
yeah.
his kit.
Okay, you just move it out the room somewhere else.
Exactly, and his football shoes and all. And she was just, because, deodorizing, so.
Yeah, and we live in this kind of society now, don't we, where we all want to smell good, perfumes, all of that stuff.
And all the heavy metals that used to be in spray
Yeah,
deodorants,
well, it's still there,
still
unfortunately.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, most spray deodorants or roll-on deodorants have aluminium salts in.
I use
Um,
essential oils now. I haven't used a
exactly.
deodorant in about 10 years. And
That's
essential
right.
oils work just as well. Lavender is actually slightly antibacterial. You put it on and you smell nice. I mean, I've had people follow me
Mm.
in a supermarket and ask me what perfume are you using. So I use a lot of geranium. And one of the reasons I use geranium is because it does help you produce a bit of progesterone as well. Not that much, but a certain amount. And
No,
people,
it's funny you should say that. It's an actual endocrine balancer,
there you go. And
uranium.
that's literally I just put on geranium on my under, and I have had people follow me saying, "What perfume are you using?" I'm like, "It's an essential oil. It's a natural scent,
That's right. So
And
we
we
should
just
all be
have
looking for
gone
those.
towards convenience again, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And we don't think about it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the average woman in the morning gets up, has a shower, whatever shower gels or soaps, whatever they're using.
170 chemicals. If you
There you
shampoo
go.
your hair, use shower gel, use a hair conditioner, and you put on your makeup, 170 chemicals.
Yeah. And all you've done is get ready for the day
All you've
and
done,
you've
yeah.
already cause stress to your
Yeah.
body
Yeah. 100%. This
without
is one of
knowing it.
my favorite. And even like, um, I used to love a particular very popular brand with bleach to spray everywhere. And you don't realize that you're breathing it in.
Of course, little micro, you know, amounts,
Particles.
droplets, particles, exactly, all in the air
And you
that you're
become
that you're
so
breathing.
programmed that you feel that smell is clean. It's
Absolutely.
because it's just
Well,
mental
we've
programming.
become cleanaholics too, right? So this
Yeah.
sterile environment that we're all so keen to have our houses
Yeah.
in is so detrimental to our microbiomes.
Yeah.
So
And
we have microbiomes all over us.
yeah.
Um,
Not just in our
not
gut.
just not just the gut that everyone is talking about and thinking about, and it's so important. I'm not we're going to get onto that in just a sec, but we have microbiomes on our skin.
Yeah.
We have microbiomes in our hair, our nails, internally, our
On my
vagina.
channel, I have a video on natural skincare and natural home cleaning.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's why a lot of children are becoming so allergic to things, is because they're just not being exposed to the bacterias and things that are actually good for us, that can
Yeah.
challenge our immune systems and create our immune systems. So the reason why I think gut health has become to the forefront is because there's more and more research being done all the time on not only just the microbiome in the gut, but the influence that has on the brain.
Yeah. The
So that
gut-brain axis.
absolutely.
I
So
did
those
a
two
course on
things.
the gut, and one of my aha moments in it was the vagus nerve, which uh, connects the gut and the brain, is also wired with the heart. So it's your gut,
Absolutely.
heart, brain axis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
And it can be so damaged
yeah.
by lots of things, one
Did
of
you
them
know
being
years ago
stress.
when people got too emotional, they just removed it? Years and years ago, they used to remove the vagus nerve. Like,
Wow.
you
Well,
know,
it's one of the largest nerves, right, in the
yeah, yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very significant, and it's obviously there for a reason.
And one of
One,
my pet things about the gut is this bandwagon which everybody's on of probiotics, probiotics drink, probiotics. And as you and I well know, that our diet determines the makeup of our gut. So you can take all the probiotics you want, but if your diet is not feeding those good
that's right, with the
bacteria, they're not
prebiotics,
going to
absolutely.
survive. We need a good prebiotic.
That's right. And fiber, fiber is so lacking in our diets.
Yeah.
But prebiotics absolutely is the thing that feeds the good bacteria. You're much more of
And a
benefit to do that.
variety of fibers, not just, oh, yeah, you know, uh, so many of my clients say to me, well, I eat my bran flakes and my Weetabix. And I'm like, you know what that is? That is like taking a Brillo pad to your gut. We need soluble fiber,
That's
which
right.
dissolves and feeds the bacteria, not just fiber that goes from one end, comes out the other, and basically just scrubs
That's right.
everything.
And
Yeah. It's
one
even
of the
fiber,
really
understanding what type of fiber.
absolutely. So, I mean, leafy greens and the
Correct.
variety of fruit and vegetables that we need is about 30 a week
Yeah.
is what we should be aiming for. And that's actually really easy to do if you're eating seasonally, if you're putting things like herbs and spices into your cooking, you're increasing those varieties of bacteria, because
Yeah.
everything contains bacteria. Um, and that's exactly what we want to do, and increase the fiber, um, it, the complex carbohydrates as well. And getting back to the subject of menopause, what we really need to do is focus on protein. Um, so
Something I
every
don't.
every meal needs to be focused around protein, healthy fats, and complex carbs.
Yeah.
So that's the really low hanging fruit of something that we can do. And the reason why, especially breakfast, needs to be protein centric and very low carb, if no carb at all, ideally,
Yeah.
is because that sets the tone for the rest of the day. It
Yeah.
sets the tone of how much our blood sugars are going to spike and fall. And obviously, what we want to try and do in menopause as much as possible is keep stability.
Insulin resistant.
And fiber and protein does that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other really important why fiber, and as you mentioned, soluble fiber is so important, is because there's a part of the menopause process where, like I was saying, that estrone kicks in and it kicks into our fat cells.
Hmm.
Well, it can actually become recycled and become even more inflammatory. So when we have enough soluble fiber, that actually drags it out, and it actually then stops that recycling process, which is
Oh,
really
wow. I
damaging.
didn't know that.
So absolutely. So that's what we need to try and do. And things like resistant starch, really, really good, highly beneficial to our guts as well. And talking about fat. So this is one of the myths that I'd really love to bust, that low fat is so bad and
Yeah.
detrimental to our health. We
Yeah.
need fat, especially women, because it's underneath. Did you know that cholesterol is the thing that makes our hormones?
Yeah. Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
cholesterol.
And how
So,
many people are on statins where everything is blocked?
and it's
I
awful. I
was,
mean, I've just read a really interesting book. I'll probably put that in the notes or something. I can't think of the author and the title now, but it's basically something like the great statin myth or cholesterol myth
yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that. And it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that we
Malhotra,
need
Asim
good fats.
Malhotra. Yeah.
So the good fats are things like avocado, good fishy oils, good fish, good like coconut, good nuts and seeds. All of those contain really good healthy fats. But within those fats are what we call the omegas, and the
Yeah.
omega 3, so anti-inflammatory. It's so beneficial for our brain. It's so beneficial for all of our cells that do millions and millions of different processes and jobs. It's the fundamental cell health that we need to look at.
Well,
And
omega
that's
3
what omega
affects us.
3
Yeah,
does.
I mean, DHA is for the health of our brain and our spine and our nerves. I mean, this is obviously there's a lot of intermingling benefits of them. But DHA, in a nutshell, DHA, spine, brain, nerves, and EPA is mood.
For
If
sure.
you've got very low EPA, I mean, if you know the way we do a blood test to determine the levels of omega 3 and EPA, if I see 80 and below, I straight away dry skin, low mood. And 90% of the time, the answer is yes.
Yeah. The other important point about gut health is, did you know that about 70% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormones, are produced in the gut?
Correct. Correct.
As so are lots of other, essential,
And DHA is
neuro.
also calming to the brain. If you don't have sufficient amount of DHA, the quality of your sleep is disrupted. And like you said, sleep is so important. You don't go into rest and digest. When you sleep, you heal. And good quality sleep is so important.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you cannot out diet a poor night's sleep,
Yeah.
because when you don't sleep well, you're going to crave carbohydrate because your brain runs off glucose.
Yeah, I
And so
find that. I
it will
find
be
that.
craving glucose.
Caffeine and carbs.
Absolutely. So that's why I always start with my clients. I always start with sleep. If you're not sleeping, there's nothing else worth
You're not
doing.
healing.
You've got to start with sleep.
Yeah.
It's the most helpful thing that we can do for ourselves. It's the
Yeah.
thing that will make the biggest difference in your life, is
Yeah.
if you're getting good quality sleep. I almost think if you can't sleep well, that's actually a poor health indicator. There's
Absolutely. I would
there's
agree with
something
you.
going on
Yeah.
as to why your body
You
can't sleep.
can't
Look at
switch
animals and
off.
babies.
Yeah.
They sleep a lot.
Yeah. The other thing about healthy fats also is our cell membrane fluidity, because the outer layer of the cell is made up of fat and some protein. And if that fat is made up of the wrong kind of fats like omega 6 or saturated fat, you can have the healthiest diet, but if your cell membrane is rigid, Nutrients don't get in, waste doesn't get out, you get achy joints, you get low energy, you get low mood. All those things happen because the mitochondria in the cell are not getting the energy to function. Every
Absolutely.
cell is programmed, every cell knows exactly what it's going to do, but you have to keep it healthy and give it the tools to do what it needs to do. And
Absolutely.
that's what do you think
Precisely.
about micronutrients in that? Because we all think carbs, protein, fat. Like we've talked protein, we've talked carbs, complex carbs and its benefits, the healthy fats, you know, but micronutrients, we
Yeah.
we don't look enough. They say eat the rainbow, and I'm guilty of it. I am guilty of it. We all get into mono diets. As much as there's monocropping with farmers, there's mono diets with us. We more or less have the same food. And eating the rainbow, I definitely don't do it
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. It's definitely something that we need to build in to our weekly plan. It's like thinking about what meals are you going to have, and just look at either, I don't know, Instagram, TikTok, or a cookbook,
Yeah,
for inspiration. Just
yeah.
look, say, oh, I'd like to try that, and
Yeah.
then plan that into your next week's
We're
meal.
not conscious enough, maybe we need to start thinking, I had some red and orange food. Now I'm going to have some green, two greens, one orange. We're not thinking the colors. It's not that we want to eat beautiful color, but the different colors contain different vitamins,
Absolutely, and
give us,
phytonutrients. Yeah,
yeah,
and all the beautiful chemicals in there that
correct.
actually help support gut health, help support all of our little functions that you just said the cells have so
Yeah,
many to do, and
yeah,
all of the different processes that our bodies have to do. We get those from variety. It's so
correct.
important to include variety in our diet, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and as we were just talking about a bit earlier about gut health, immunity, and vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important, and you can get it from your diet a little
yeah.
bit. You can get it from fish, you can get it from dark green leafy things,
And
um,
mushrooms.
and mushrooms,
Yeah,
absolutely.
chestnut
So,
mushrooms.
so thinking about, that variety, thinking about, well, I could actually eat some vitamin D as well.
Yeah.
I think it's vitally important to supplement, but
Yeah, it's
especially in the
it's
winter.
but all supplements, as you and I know, are not created equal,
Absolutely.
and we are both always banging on about test-based nutrition. Test, take it, retest, make sure it's working, don't guess,
That's
test.
correct.
I mean, how many
There's a
times
lot.
have we said that?
Absolutely. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, I take vitamin D. I'm like, well, do you know if it's vitamin D3? Do you know,
Exactly.
do you know if it's the active form?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know how much you need?
yeah.
You know, so that's the thing. And it's
I
vitally,
don't think we test enough. We've become so used to testing being at the doctor's, and
you can't get a
unfortunately,
doctor's
if you
appointment
can get an
anymore.
appointment, good luck. And good luck trying to get it from him. One of my clients, I said to her, I was like, look, I can give you a vitamin D test, but go and ask your doctor. You could get it for free from him. And she went there and he just said to her, he's like, everybody's low in vitamin D. Go and take some.
Mm,
Not how much. Obviously there's international units in vitamin D, and there's you're okay,
yeah.
you're optimal, and you're overdosed. Very few people are overdosed. I've never met anybody that's overdosed, right?
Mm,
I have met a few people. I mean, you can decide, do I want to be okay or do I want to be optimal? That's your choice. You know,
absolutely. And you're only going to
at
find
least
that out.
know where you are.
You're only going to find that out with a test.
Correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Correct.
it's so important for immunity. We were talking about gut health and immunity, but vitamin D supports every single body
It's
system.
actually anti-inflammatory as well.
Absolutely. It's the thing that a lot of doctors are talking about now as preventative medicine. Thank God, the
Yeah.
ones that are in the know anyway, the ones that I follow on YouTube are
I mean,
talking about high levels
I'm a
of
fan
vitamin
of
D.
the NHS, and my daughter-in-law works for the NHS. But you see, if I mean, the NHS saved my husband's life. He had a severe heart attack, and honestly, he wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them and the care that he was given. I'm a big fan of the NHS. But what's happened somewhere is that it's become the Band-Aid giver. It's great for critical care. But we have to decide, do we want to fall sick and then look for the solution, or we prevent ourselves from falling sick,
Mm. Yeah,
basically?
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Dr. Paul Clayton, he says, you're falling off a building, a 20-story building at floor 10, you still think you're okay. And that, do you wait for the splat and then look for a solution? Or do
Mm.
you get a safety net at floor 10? That's basically what it is.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and and as you and I said before, all supplements are not created equal. Like you and I know, very few fish oil works. In fact, Dr. Paul Clayton, drpaulclayton.eu, and he says fish oil, it might as well be snake oil. No, you have to look for a supplement that's willing to say test, take our supplement, retest.
Yeah,
Can't say more than
absolutely.
that, can
Otherwise,
we? There's proof.
otherwise, again,
And
we
third
don't know.
party testing, not that the company is doing the test, third party testing.
Absolutely. That's so vitally important, isn't it? To
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
give the credibility of the
And the
company.
only reason we need supplements is because I know that I don't eat enough vegetables. I definitely don't. I'm guilty. And, so not having enough fruit and vegetables. And we were speaking to Dr. Call in Liverpool, and he said 5 a day is the bare minimum.
Bare
Yet
minimum.
most people have three, right?
Yeah.
That would be me, 3 or 4 category. I love fruit and I stopped eating fruit because fruit is very sugary and I'm terrible I've since childhood been terrible. And then, so not only are you not getting the fibers, but you're not also getting the micronutrients.
Mm.
Everybody thinks protein, carbs, fats. We don't think enough micronutrients. And if you are taking the right supplement, you
Yeah.
can be sure you're getting the right essential fatty acids, mainly marine omega-3, because the omega-3 that's available in nuts is vegetable omega-3. Your body has to do 5 enzymatic reactions to convert it into EPA and DHA.
Mm.
So, you need healthy fats, good soluble fiber, and an intelligent multivitamin, multi-mineral, multi-phytonutrient. It has to be an intelligent one. Look at the ingredients of the supplements you're taking. If they're not made from food, your body that has evolved over thousands of years is very smart, recognizes it, and goes, what the hell is this? I'm not absorbing it.
Absolutely. Bioavailability is everything because otherwise
Absolutely.
you're just
Yeah.
splashing your money down the pan, literally.
Expensive pee and poo, as I call it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the reason why this is so relevant for menopause is because of those falling hormones,
Yeah.
it affects every single body system. And so we need to do as much as we can just to support the body through this transition and beyond to
Yeah.
make sure that we do have the good bone health. Vitamin D is essential for good bone health, brain health, gut health, and immunity. We've already spoken about. All of these things that we've spoken about today is the low hanging fruit, really,
Correct.
for support through this transition,
Yeah.
which can be extremely difficult for some women. Some, I think they are the minority to sail through menopause,
Yeah.
but the majority of women have a handful of symptoms that they desperately trying to manage.
And
You
the
know,
thing is, if you're able to sleep, you can, manage your mood and you've got energy, your cells are functioning better,
yeah,
so it's going to rain. Let's pretend menopause is rain. It's going to rain. But if you get your cells functioning properly, you're giving yourself an umbrella. You're going to get
absolutely.
wet,
Mm.
but you're not going to get soaked.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of the many tools that we can do. So we've
Yeah,
spoken about environment, we've spoken about diet, we've spoken about sleep. Exercise is the other thing that
yeah.
if we can engage with strength,
Strength
conditioning
training. Yeah,
exercise,
yeah. I've
it's
started
you
doing
know,
that. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's fantastic because it just is an ally. Muscle knows no age.
yeah,
Muscle can grow at any time.
yeah.
If you stimulate it in the right way, we become strong. And that's the thing with, how things have changed over the years, from the stick thin models and all of that being the pinnacle of female
Oh, yeah.
bodies.
Yeah,
No, we're changing now. We're changing
yeah,
to strength. We need to be
yeah.
strong so that when we do get into our older age, we don't fall and break our bones. That's the most important thing, and that we keep our brains ticking for as long
functioning.
as possible and
I know,
functioning healthily.
I know. Mary, it's been very, very interesting. Thank you so much. And I love it when I have an aha moment. And yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Where is stop?